Welcome to the Chimney and Fireplace Success Network, a weekly broadcast sponsored by CVC Success Group, hosted each week by industry speaker, coach, author, and educator Jerry Isenhour. Our presentations are produced to assist business owners and managers in turning their business dreams into their business realities. And now, here is your host, Jerry Isenhour.
And I want to welcome you to another episode of the Chimney and Fireplace Success Network. This will be episode number 85, and I'm really excited about sharing this with you because this is going to be a podcast based on a recent conversation with a dear friend of mine, and I'm going to give you a little background into it and where we go to. So anyway, this particular business owner had sent me a note back in January, and we've continued the conversation. And this was his question to me: Jerry, I presented some ideas in different classes, and what I'm wanting to know is the lean processes, are people picking up on this? Are people using these processes out there in the industry? And I shared with him, I said, some people are picking up on it, but as you're aware, one of the hardest parts of lean is the part called sustain. And people get discouraged. They don't see the results instantaneously. So keeping people on this track, yes, it's something that we work with in our coaching relationships with our clients. But what's your thoughts? Well, the guy that I was talking to, his name was Charlie Quayle, and he's presented some seminars at various times. I've seen him do it through a state Chimney Sweep Association meeting several years ago, and he also did a presentation for the National Chimney Sweep Guild. So anyway, as we went through this, I said, Charlie, can we share your thoughts on your journey through lean processes and what it's been like? So to start this off, I first saw Charlie's where he had got excited about lean about 10 years ago because I visited him at his location. He had just built a new warehouse facility and moved his business out of his house. And to be honest with you, I had known Charlie for many years, but I had never seen the excitement in his eyes and in his voice as he was telling me about the journey he was on, which was the journey of lean. So we're going to go through, and I'm going to give you this conversation with Charlie because Charlie wants to help people get this process into place in their own businesses. So one of the best ways is to share that with you of where this journey went to. So here we go. And this is, like I said, this is taken from what Charlie has shared with me and how he embarked on the journey of lean and where he's at today, right at 10 years later. So here's the first question. Charlie, what first attracted you to even consider lean in your business? Well, he shared with me that he had heard about lean through a trainer in the industry who has now left us by the name of David Pomeroy. And David shared the processes of lean where David seen this in use at an industry factory and felt that it was what would move a lot of people to a higher level. And Charlie went even deeper because he then had Hope Stevenson came to his facility and did some introductory training on lean with him and his crew. So for him, it motivated him. At the time he explained it like he could feel this hot breath of chaos breathing down his neck, and he knew he couldn't grow without the chaos being gone. He needed help, and lean had clearly given him the hope that he had been seeking. Because as many of us, he was going through Groundhog Day over and over and over, waking up, doing the same stupid things, in his words, that did the day before and getting the same results. But then one day, he met a guy by the name of Bob Arbel, and meeting Bob changed everything. It didn't do it all at once, and it didn't do it without blood, sweat, and tears. So who is Bob Arbel? Bob Arbel is a guy who is now retired, but who implemented lean in several factories that supplied parts for the Toyota car company. He had a scale to scale lean into small business, and Charlie is really indebted to him for the help that he given. He had Bob come to his office. He did a warehouse audit, and it wasn't pretty. In fact, Charlie says it was actually pathetic. I didn't even think he ever even shared with him what the audit actually said. But he did describe for him how lean processes could eliminate the chaos. And this time Charlie knew this was what he had been looking for. He was desperate. He wasn't going to let this opportunity pass him by. So I said, Charlie, how do you describe lean? And Charlie said the following: lean is about making things better, better quality, better value, better place to work, more profitable. Lean is about applying continuous improvement techniques to rid the day of bumps and headaches. And he shared with me that Bob had warned him that for the first 2 or 3 years of lean implementation, it would feel like Charlie was crawling on glass. And painful it was. Everywhere he looked, he had waste. But he had to learn to celebrate the little wins. Many times he didn't have a plan B. My hands and knees, he described it, had a lot of scars. Where do you see lean happening in your business, Charlie? Morning meetings for one. Some of the most important preparation for the day happens at their 7 a.m. meeting each day. One meeting we celebrate, other meetings we review. Each week we have a day of reinforcing the culture of safety. We spend a few minutes publicly passing on customer praise, which builds up every team member and reinforces what customers really value. And this all happens in 20 minutes every morning. Lean is about recognizing the solutions to problems are found by involving the team members who are closest to the action. It's very tempting to solve problems from the front office, but what you've really got to do is solve problems from the front line. This to me sounds like what my friend Mike Story always talks about, which is leading from the front lines. Charlie has a real unique quote: as the warehouse goes, so goes the rest of your business. I've heard him say this a lot of times, and the question was, what do you mean, Charlie? And he said this: I know it sounds like an exaggeration, but I'm going to tell you why I'm so passionate about it. The warehouse is the biggest, most graphic demonstration of systems in the business. It's clear whether materials are flowing efficiently through it or whether it's haphazard and confused. This is why I don't really like the term warehouse. I prefer the term wareflow. I like to imagine a time-lapse film showing everything coming into the warehouse through one door, leaving through the other. Nothing hangs around. Everything has direction and movement. I think of all the space in the warehouse as high-dollar real estate. This means we must make it count. You don't put tire shops on New York's Fifth Avenue. It's not that the used tires don't have value, but it's not the best use of limited space. You got to make it count with products that yield high dollar value return. Storing anything that isn't moving is simply waste. Everybody sees that the orderliness exemplifies the warehouse and understands and appreciates the systems and the lack of clutter. I'm concerned that there are other patterns of order and flow that will radiate into other areas of the business. How much time do we spend looking for stuff in your business? Think about that for a minute. How many minutes in a day and possibly hours do you spend looking for stuff? Multiply that by each employee every day, and you have wasted time and money to invest a lot more productively. Charlie guards his warehouse like his life depends on it. Doesn't make mistakes. It doesn't don't make mistakes. It represents progress for the entire company to me. The goal is sustained excellence. Wareflow warning. One of the biggest chaos contributors is incidental warehousing, the steady accumulation of parts and pieces left over from various jobs. This is what I call the boneyard in many companies. If you don't have a plan for leftover stuff coming back into the warehouse from jobs, you will soon be overrun. Is this where your warehouse may be? Is your warehouse overrun with stuff that is not moving? How are you today, Charlie, after 8 years of this lean journey? That's a good question. Who knows all the factors that go into where we are today compared to where we were even a couple years ago? I admit lean is not everything, but lean is making a difference. Well, for one thing, we have a lot less callbacks. When we first started collecting the callback information, it was extremely painful and burdensome because it was happening so frequently. Before, we didn't even really think about it. At that time, I was proud of the fact that we were so good at going back and taking care of the customer concern. I really didn't think about how to prevent the need for the callback. Listen carefully, folks. He was proud of himself because he was going back to take care of the problems, but he wasn't spending the time to prevent the callbacks. Another difference, Charlie says, that I think more strategically, instead of taking on the day and the next day, we take the time to plan and address critical movements to implement in the months to come that will really matter to our customers, both inside and outside the organization. And then we roll out the steps and checkpoints that are necessary along the way. When we think and we act strategically, we build value more deeply into the organization. I'm not as attracted to bandwagons and the change in the box because they really present the solutions to my most pressing problems. Bandwagons are rarely sustained in an organization anyway, is what Charlie says. Another difference, it's time to fix my mistakes, and it's another thing entirely to commit time and resources to learn how to prevent mistakes from happening again. Also, shooting from the hip, making intuitive decisions, using my gut, letting emotion direct action is not sustainable or scalable. It does not lead to informed action. You've got to take the time to collect useful information, most often leading to the intended destination. So, Charlie, give us a peek at some of the numbers we're different now than when you started. Well, one of these is callbacks. Some of those were as high as 20% of the time, and now they're around 3%. We call this metric perfect flow. How many jobs flow through our customer care process without a hitch? And we're hovering right around 97% today. Also, waste is a percent of revenue. Measuring waste is different for everybody. The objective is to measure waste in some way and then try to move the needle. For us, waste is mostly measured in time, from over 10% waste to less than half of 1% of waste today. I know this is true. Waste is hidden everywhere. Everyone is going to measure it differently. We added 25% to the size of our warehouse simply by reducing stock items and incidental storage and going to just-in-time deliveries. We've gained a meeting room, warehouse space, and space flexibility. Most everything is on wheels. The value per square foot has gone up tremendously. Well, Charlie, what do you have as tips for those interested in the lean journey? Well, for one, if the key to leadership is not focused on implementing lean, it's not likely going to have a part of the organizational DNA and therefore not have the impact of continuous improvement and sustained change. Lean will be expressed in many different ways depending on the individuals leading the climb. There is no right way for it to look. Lean is not suited for everybody. There are plenty of thriving businesses that don't even know about lean. You may want to read about it and learn about it. It has some remarkable stories of change and value creation. If you want a practical way to add square footage to your warehouse, give your warehouse an enema and learn how to prevent incidental storage. My experience with lean is that it's not impressive and awesome like a meteor shower, but it's more like a glacier. It moves almost imperceptibility, but for the landscape is totally changed. Well, that was conversation number one that I had with Charlie. And then we had a second conversation. And this is what lessons lean has taught me. And the me is Charlie. So here we go. Okay, Charlie, it's pretty clear that one of the biggest changes in your business resulting from lean thinking has been the elimination of a majority of callbacks, the extra time and materials going into the redos, and the extra effort to take care of the customer's expectations. Can you give me a moment and dive into an example of what changed in your business to affect a change in callbacks? Charlie said, that's a great question. And there's so many examples, but I will pick a common problem that we all face as contractors. One of the things that Bob has taught me is that unless you can define your process, you cannot improve it. This is kind of what SOPs are. And the SOPs is we stand for Standard Operating Procedures, one of Jerry's favorite things. As we analyze the callback notice, we noticed that much of the problems were built into the handoff of project from the sales to operations. If we could reach into our customer care process at that one point and make some changes, we would get drastic improvements to callback numbers. Hey, this is the basis for the course we have called Fumbles and Bad Handoffs, because this is what we've been preaching for years, is you've got to eliminate this handoff of information and stop these fumbles. Then the next thing he said is, as you know, it's got to start with the owner, and not the owner of the business, but in the lean process, every step in the process has to have an owner, the person who's responsible. In this case, the owner of the part of the process is the guy who sold the job. If he does not follow what we call the 5-star proposal process, the chance of a callback go up significantly. Nowhere do we have a better chance of affecting the end result of a happy customer than when it is in the beginning, when we're developing the details of the plan. And folks, let me share with you from my coaching experience, this is so true. So often, because our eyes are blinded to the obvious, many times we sell jobs and we don't have the proper information to carry them off. We can't order the materials properly. We don't have the repairs detailed enough in order for someone else to do the repairs. And my next question, Charlie, was, wow, I can tell there's a lot more behind what you just said, but I'd like to move on to hearing about another process improvement that you're using that may not be related to callbacks that has really affected the way you run your business. Charlie said, fair enough. Process improvement has to be measurable and affect change in a tangible way. There must be a before state and an after state. You start with the problem you're trying to solve, that is the before, and it has to be defined by some metric. Customer satisfaction percentage, profits, cash flow, accounts receivable, closing percentages on proposals, leads coming in the business. If you're not measuring your key indicators, then you're not able to really know where any changes are actually affecting the desired result. I hate to say it, but one of the biggest problems we were facing was inconsistent profitability. I know nobody else has this problem, right, Charlie? You believe that. But here I am implementing lean for years and still having a profitability problem. What gives? Shouldn't this hard work with lean showing up on the bottom line? And Charlie still went further. He said, we had a big change in the late spring of 2017. Month after month, we would have all these expectations for revenue and profitability, and we would fall short sometimes and then be happy other months. It put us to inconsistency. In April of 2017, we got blinded by a shortfall, which put us in a very uncomfortable cash flow position. I was fed up. I told Bob, there's got to be a better way. Bob's taught me that my business is perfectly designed to get the results that I'm getting. So if I'm getting inconsistent forecasting, I must be able to reach into my processes and affect the change in order to improve our ability to see what is really going on in real time and reduce the surprises at the end of the month. Believe me, it takes people a lot smarter than me to find answers to problems. The good news is there's a lot of smart people walking around who would love to help. I pulled the alarm and I pulled Bob in and my CFO, who also happens to be my son. Bob had the idea if we changed our forecasting cycle from monthly to weekly, we would have more control over the results. My son helped put together a spreadsheet we could fill in with certain data from our work week, and all of a sudden, bingo! We could see whether we were going to be profitable or fall short. Revenue, crew assignments, etc. It had to be factored in for accuracies. The results have been very clear. We're now driving properly by looking through the windshield instead of looking through the rearview mirror at the end of the month. What a difference this has made. To be sure, it didn't automatically make us profitable. We were just ahead of time that we were going strong or falling short. We have begun to develop a set of controls and affect the end results. I don't want to be a roller coaster. That's not what I want my business to be. I want to be steady like a sewing machine, consistent, profitable, sustainable. So, Charlie, there's no little change. Is that consistency in business activity felt beyond just the financial statement at the end of the month? His answer, that's an interesting question. In 2.5 years, we have noticed that we have stopped talking about the busy season. This year, May and August were both record-breaking months. More revenue and profit than any other month ever. It didn't feel rushed and it didn't feel chaotic. Fourth quarter, October through December, now has different expectations than they used to in years past. We're trying to yield a certain volume of revenue and profit, but is the same as March's goal. I know it sounds crazy to a chimney company, but what we're discovering to be a result, consistency throughout the entire year. Another result affects what we call redlining. Redlining is when the pace is so fast that systems and people start to break down. It's not a good place to be. Going crazy in the winter was accepted as part of the business, but it doesn't have to be that way. Physical health and mental sharpness deteriorate, quality deteriorates, callbacks increase, and team member absenteeism increases during extended periods of redlining. Quality of products is an obvious area affected by lean. Next question to Charlie. The descriptions of what's happening in your business would give someone the impression you're a multi-million-dollar operation. Do you have to be big to be lean, to go lean? And Charlie replied, lean really doesn't have anything to do with size. Zero. The only qualification is that you have some sort of operation. Lean again is about utilizing certain tools to expose and eradicate headaches and build value into your products and services. You don't need to be big to implement lean. Again, one of the reasons I felt the attraction to lean is I wanted to grow and I did not want to waste and chaos to grow at the same rate. Small can be attractive because it's manageable and we can still touch everything in the business and control it. When the business grows, many times you feel out of control, or you can hire strong leaders to help you control the business, or you can give the business good processes to control outcome. And I asked him, well, Charlie, do you have any other reasons why a leader should consider lean? And this was his answer. Jerry, in this economic cycle today, most everyone is doing well. When money is good, there's little motivation to change. Most of the time, good lasting change is going to be painful. The reality of this economic climate will change, and when it does, all the inefficiencies and waste gets exposed and becomes a big drag on business. Hate to retell the story of the three little pigs, but it's true. The trials of economic downturns can cripple business that does not have an efficient infrastructure or does not have the ability to adapt and change quickly. Good people lose their jobs when this happens, when there's an economic downturn. One final experience. Today, if I see a problem or a mistake, I'm now less inclined to get upset or fret or even worse, blow up. One reason is because I know as a company, we don't just pay for mistakes, we learn from them and turn them into an investment kind of like tuition. Another reason is I know that mistakes happen and usually our waste numbers are low and the problem is taken in context. We are improving. We're heading in the right direction. So, what you've been listening to is a conversation between myself and my friend Charlie Quayle, who has been on this lean journey for 8 to 10 years now. And I can see how Charlie has changed through this. I can remember when Charlie had a business that was full of chaos. Known Charlie for almost 30 years, probably, maybe even longer. Done work with him. Actually had went to Raleigh and had my crews worked with Charlie some years ago to get big jobs done because he didn't have the manpower to pull them off. So this has been all about lean processes and one business owner's journey through lean processes. To sum it up, it didn't give him instantaneous results. But what it has done is give him a business that is more predictable, more forecastable, better able to move forward, better able to weather economic storms, better able to forecast, has reduced his callbacks, has reduced his waste to less than one half of 1% of his gross, which is truly remarkable. I can remember when Charlie was sitting at 3% waste, and he was telling me that his goal was to get less than 1%. And now to hear that he's down at half of 1% on his total waste is truly pleasing and it's shocking because I know what all waste is out there from my own observations. So if you haven't considered lean in your business, if you haven't considered implementation of morning meetings, job costing, all the other things that are involved in stopping the fumbles and bad handoffs in your business. Maybe it's time you thought about doing that. Maybe it's time you decided it's time to stop Groundhog Day at your business. But it's only going to take your decision to do this, and you're going to have to make the decision to go after it and stay on it every single day. There's 5 S's in lean. And the hardest one is sustain. It's like any other journey. You've got to set the destination of where the journey will go. Then you've got to develop your roadmap on how you're going to get there. And if we can help you in this at CV Success Group, reach out to us. We'd love to have a conversation with you because this is what we help people do. We work as coaches. We work as consultants, we work as educators, and we work as trainers. And we would love to be able to work with you. So appreciate you joining us this week for this episode of One Business Owner's Journey Through Lean Processes. Our podcast is sponsored every week by the CVC Success Group. Reach out to us, info@cvcsuccessgroup.com, and let us see if our process can help take your business dreams and turn them into your business realities. This is Jerry Isenhour signing off. It's been an honor, it's been a privilege, and it's been a pleasure to share our thoughts with you today. And much thanks to my friend Charlie Quayle for sharing his innermost feelings on how lean can help others move to their dream destination. Talk to you next time.
Thanks for joining us here each week at the Chimney and Fireplace Success Network, sponsored by CVC Success Group, providing you the coaching and educational outreach services you need to move to your dream destination in business and in life.